Hello and welcome back to the Space Out session. And today, guys, class is in session. It has come to my attention that we simply have not been talking about the best series ever enough on this channel. So today, we're just doing a deep dive. We're going into why Empire of the Vampire is the best series ever. And you can't change my mind. So let's dive into it. Why is it the best ever? Because it is. It's simply the best. You can't beat Empire of the Vampire unless you're Robin Hobb. Changed my mind. But really, what is this series about? Or what are the strengths and weaknesses of the series? Strengths: dialogue. You will not find better dialogue in any series you will come across. I don't care if it's Hobb, if it's Erickson, if it's Martin. He's got better prose than all of them. You just have to read the book. You will simply agree. Prose, pretty elite prose as well. He's on that same sort of tier with those same other authors that I mentioned before. Just super rich prose, very descriptive. He's not the kind of author that you would read if you just learnt English. Then his characters. The characters, phenomenal. All well-rounded. The men, the women, even the children too. Even the children too. All well done. The world building. This is just a small trilogy, but this world feels absolutely massive. And the world building ties right into the plot. So we get a big epic story, a world-ending story, a massive world to match this story with rich history and cultures. We'll dive further into the plot. When we dive into the plot, you'll see why I love this so much. Profanity. Why does this get a whole check mark just for itself? The sort of language that J. Kristoff uses, the creativity he uses for his slurs, is just delicious. You just have to read more to see what sort of language he's going to use next. This guy's Australian and he's the best of us. Pacing, again, because the plot is so interesting and it has like 3 different timelines that we're jumping through, the pacing, you're just always getting the juicy stuff. Because of the way the story is told, where we're getting the main character talking to an interrogator, telling us about his life, we're just getting all the important parts of the story, no fluff. Humor, you will be laughing so much whilst you read this book. Absolutely hilarious. The amount of funny dialogue between characters is just unrivaled, and it still maintains a serious, dark, super dark tone, but the humor just chucks it in there. J. Kristoff is a master of twists, and he also includes artwork in Empire of the Vampire. In every single edition, this isn't a special edition thing. If you buy a copy of Empire of the Vampire, you will get artwork in your book, and who doesn't want that? So they're the strengths. And the weaknesses: book 3 isn't out yet. What the hell, J. Kristoff? I demand book 3 now. I need to read it. He has finished the first copy of his draft, so I'm sure it won't be too far away though. And then at number 2, I have to talk about other books on this channel apparently, and it's just a little bit annoying when so few books compare. But I get it. I'm talking about this too much. So I've said it's really good. I've said I've liked it, but I haven't really said what it's about yet, have I? So let's dive into the plot. What is the plot? Well, I'm not going to tell you exactly what happens because that would spoil the story for you, wouldn't it? So I'm just going to give you lots of question marks. So interrogation/interview. The basis for this story is this book starts in a prison cell with our main character, Gabriel de Leon. And a vampire historian comes in and tells Gabe, mate, I'm just a historian here. I just want to hear your story. Gabe's like, well, I know that's not why you're really here. I know you want to know what I've been up to the last few months. But he's like, no, take us to the start. So Gabe takes us to the start. This whole book is conversation. There's quotation marks pretty much on every single paragraph because this is the book trying to really show to us that this is just Gabriel talking to the interrogator. We get his early life, so we get a bit of coming of age going on. We get what he's been up to the last few months. How has he ended up in a prison cell of a vampire? Where is this story leading to? This is all leading to catching up in real time by book 3. So as we're learning about what Gabriel's been up to, we're like, how is this going to tie into the present? And also, very early on in the book, we learn that Gabriel de Leon is the last Silver Saint of Michonne, which is a religious sect of warriors. So we get to see him going through that religious sect, meeting all those people, training to become a warrior in this interview when we're learning back about his early part of his life. So as you can tell by this being an interview, part of this story has already happened, but it is catching up to real time. So we're getting all of Gabriel's life, what he's been doing recently, and how that ties into the present, how this is going to be a big world-ending, world-saving sort of event. Then we've got a bit of a Twilight Zone, Da Vinci Code thing going on over here. Don't worry, all the stuff I'm talking about is in the blurb. It's on the back of the book, so I'm not spoiling anything. Twilight Zone, their sun doesn't really come up anymore. It's just twilight during the day and night during the night. So vampires can be up whenever. And this has been going on the last 27 years, which has led to the Empire of the Vampire. This is why vampires have taken over, because they can be out whenever. So we've got a bit of Da Vinci Code, Holy Grail sort of thing going on, trying to figure out how we can end this twilight. There might be some steamy romance chucked in on the side, some pretty good romance. And there's a pretty post-apocalyptic setting because most of humanity has been destroyed by vampires. And yes, Gabriel is pretty old by the time of this book, so he's a grizzled old warrior, but it's also a coming-of-age story. So that's what I'll tell you about the plot. I'll just tell you a ton of vague things, and I'll let you figure it out and just read the book because I don't want to ruin anything for you. You just have to dive into it. So this book is just a masterclass in prose and dialogue. Let's look at some of these lines. Your past is stone, but your future clay, and you decide the shape of the life you make. And then, just a quick example of J. Kristoff's wit. Ask me not if God exists, but why he's such a prick. Come on, hilarious. This back and forth here. De Leon, you're alive? Sadly. How? God didn't want me, and the devil was afraid to open the door. Come on. Like, does that just not sell you on the book? Another one I haven't got on here is just, my friends are the hill I die on. Isn't Gabriel someone you just want to meet? Someone that just looks after his friends? And then you just get some social commentary where J. Kristoff knows you're reading the book. He knows you love reading books. And he goes, life without books is a life not lived, Dior. There's a magic like no other to be found in them. To open a book is to open a door to another place, another time, another mind. And usually, mademoiselle, it's a mind far sharper than your own. Come on. Does this not get you excited to read more, Kristoff? Come on. So we know the plot's good. We know he's got elite prose and writing. What about the world? Just look at some of the artwork we have from here. We've got Gabriel. We've got some creepy girl we don't find out about till book 2. Gabe and them fighting. Oh, some easy queen. I believe this is the lady that has Gabriel locked up in a cell. Gabe and his talking sword. And yes, there is a talking sword. You've read the Stormlight Archive. It's like Sword Nimi, but even more funny. And then we've got Astrid. Oh, she is fantastic. But this world is massive. It's huge. It's fleshed out. We get vampires, but they're done in a way where each different line of vampires, whichever family they came from, you get certain abilities. And there's tiers of vampires. Yes, you get your vampires that are clear, coherent, spoken, they can run things. But then you get your general run-of-the-mill, basically zombies, wretched, which just run around looking for blood. They're pretty mindless, but they can be like telepathically controlled by the vampires that are still sound of mind. We get other fantastical species that are done really well. And J. Kristoff doesn't miss out on the details. Because this land has been living in a twilight and there hasn't been no sun, these people are basically just living off like mushrooms and potatoes and whatever sort of things they can grow without sunlight because they don't have any sunlight, so they're just making do. It's a very grim world. It's a very grim world that J. Kristoff is able to bring to life and make so vivid because of his rich descriptive prose. His writing just inserts you into the world. Because of the language he uses, you just feel immersed as soon as you pick up the page. So let's put this together. What are you getting with Empire of the Vampire? You're getting all strengths, no weaknesses. This is a book that excels in every major category. Plot, prose, world building, characters. You're not getting any, there's no shortcomings in either any of those. J. Kristoff is going to excel. One important thing, J. Kristoff doesn't fade to black. If he has something he wants to put on a page, he's going to put it on the page. There will be some sex scenes, there'll be a ton of swearing, there'll be a ton of gore. You've got to be ready for that. But it's just the best time, so don't worry about that. The prose is rich, vivid, it brings the world alive, and the dialogue, it just feels like you're hanging out with your mates and talking shit, but on such an intellectual level, you just feel engaged and engrossed. Impeccable pacing. Because of this interview sort of structure, the book's broken up into quite a few different parts. You're just going through, getting all the fun little parts. You're jumping through different times. So you're with him in the present, you're with him in the past, you're with him 3 months in the past. So you're always like hooked, engaged. It's something to keep up with. And yes, dialogue that will have you laughing out loud, but will also have you put your hand on your heart because it'll just get you because it'll just get you feeling and your hand on your chin because you'll be thinking about stuff. Jay Kristoff just is a master. It's not just humor, it's dark. The themes are dark. It gets you thinking, but it gets you feeling good. You're just like, oh, that's a good moment. It's a very cool take on vampires. It's a very cool take on other fantasy species. The warriors from the religious church, very interesting. I won't say anything more there. And the story just continues to get more and more interesting as the plot catches up to real time. I can't wait for book 3 when the story actually catches up to real time and we get Jay Kristoff's big twist, the big reveal of what Gabriel's been doing and what is actually going on. Jay Kristoff is my favorite author of all time. This series is phenomenal. I cannot wait for it to be finished and I just want more people to read it. So thank you so much for watching this video. Please leave it a like. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Let me know if this is the sort of content you want to see more of because I definitely have ideas. If this is something you think is enjoyable. And if you've read this book, please tell me your favorite characters down below and your favorite quote by them. And if you haven't read this, please tell me why you haven't read it yet and I'll give you a good reason to read it if this hasn't been persuasive enough already. Thank you so much. Have a great day.